All right. Good morning. This is engineering management. We'll discuss about the introduction into engineering management. No? Um, this has always been my subject because I think primarily because of my experience in the industry. So usually engineering management is taken during the final year of the course, no? So to prepare students for their next adventure after graduating, from the degree. So hopefully, I wish all the students now a great parang opportunity to enter into the different industries um, available for the electronics engineering graduates. So basically, we know that there are several industries that electronics engineers can go into. So one field is the telecommunications industry. The other one is the semiconductor industry, or shall we say also electronics industry. So there are other industries such as services industry, ICT industry. So there are various industries that an electronics engineer can work into. It's just that when we go to the industry now, we need to be very specific into our field of specialization. Okay, so we would choose early on what kind of industry are we going to go to, and then focus all the skills, knowledge that we have, prepare ourselves to go into that industry, right? So when we are already in that particular industry, basically our experience, because we're not expert yet, no, so we don't know anything about the company yet. We don't know in either services, how they produce products, how they produce or develop devices. So generally, we start at a very low rank. Sometimes, if not cadet engineer, we sometimes there are electronics engineers who would opt for technician level, no, so that it can enter into the industry. But later on, most of the electronics engineers would elevate themselves, not be promoted because of the skills that we gained and knowledge we gained during the academic years we have in the university. So we will discuss about the basic principles of engineering management. It's not similar to our courses, no, or other subjects in the university that we need to compute a lot of things. So although there will be minimal computations, but not entirely difficult. So these are more on the management side. So that's why the title is engineering management. So we would foresee that a new electronics engineer or new engineer coming into the industry will have a lot of things to learn as well, and then eventually we would say that we would become experts in our field and then go up to the ladder until such time that we become our own engineering managers. No? So that's the goal. No? So if we enter usually a company, we would always be asked, okay, what do you want to be in the next 5 years? No? So basically, we answer to get several promotions until this time we became not only a cadet engineer but become a senior engineer, and then also possibly a supervisor or an engineering manager. So in terms of the promotional, no, because we want to get promoted because of the benefits that we gain, no, when we are promoted. So based on my experience, if we can become senior engineer, then that's where like gasoline allowance and other perks are available to senior engineers, no, on a monthly basis. So there are benefits of becoming senior engineers or even managers. No, a lot of benefits comes, but there are a lot of responsibilities as well. So that's why it's up to us as newbie, as a new engineer, to do work hard, work smart, so that we will become we will rise, no, to the ladder, no, in terms of the promotions available. All right. So let's discuss first basically some principles. No? So we will define engineering management. And first and foremost, we review ourselves to what is engineering. No? So engineering is a profession in which a knowledge of the mathematical and natural science gained by study, experience, and practice is applied with judgment to develop ways to utilize economically the materials and forces of nature for the benefit of mankind. So this is according to the U.S. Engineering Societies when they defined this engineering in 1979. I have highlighted here keywords such as knowledge, judgment, utilize materials and forces, benefit of mankind. So when we are in the university, of course, we are trained, no, or we are taught with different sets of skills and knowledge for us to be prepared for the eventual outside as we graduate from the university and to the outside world. No? So what we're gonna do is that all those mathematical principles, physics, chemistry, can be applied, no, when we work in the field. Basically, that's our foundation. So sometimes if our boss, no, so as an engineer, we pass the licensure exam, there are a lot or certain level of expectations for us to be knowledgeable on a lot of things. No? So they would challenge us and question us and ask us to do something, and then their expectations are at the start very high. And so they would test us. Where are we in terms of the level of our knowledge in semiconductor processes or in electronics or telecom field? No, so that's where um, our boss comes in, no, at the start. So we make use of those knowledge and then applied with judgment. Also, meaning to say, we evaluate things based on our knowledge gain. So usually you'll be asked if it's a no-go decision when we are met with challenges in the production line, for example. So basically, over the years, engineers played a key role, no, in terms of the development we have in the country or in the world. So gone are the days that we use, like for example, if you can imagine Agusan River, when we don't have built bridges yet, our civil engineers are not yet born. So people before would have to cross the river, no, using boats probably. Most likely, no, because they have to transfer goods from one place to the other, and we know that Agusan River, the other side have different, or I mean, they have different communities there, so they would go into trade, and so they do that. So with the advent of engineering, of course, people now build bridges to make or improve our lives easier, and that also happened during the time of we have electricity. We don't have yet electricity in Mindanao, and then I think that was the time of President Marcos when he introduced or he invested, no, in terms of establishing the Agos power plants, no, in Iligan City. And so that's the time where we have electricity then in Mindanao. So these developments are led by, of course, the engineers, no, designing hydropower electric plants for us to get our own electricity. So if you look at today, electronics engineers, so we are actually working with the field of electrical engineering. And so we develop devices today that are really useful, no, for mankind. Before, we always have to call our loved ones using phone booths available in telecom companies. No? So we go there to a particular office, we pay them, and then we call our loved ones and pay them for the bill that we have. And now, so after several years, decades, we have fully developed smartphones that enables us to communicate. And of course, the presence of internet. So we have gone a long way, in terms of electronics development. So these are all for the benefit of mankind. So our way of living has been improving since then. All right. So what is an engineer? a person applying his mathematical and science knowledge properly for mankind. And we know that when we practice, no, so we call ourselves as engineer. And engineering, it is a discipline and not an art. So basically, we have sets of tools, no? So we just don't rely on perceptions or So we are guided. Our judgment is guided by our knowledge, no? So acquired from the mathematical principles, engineering principles. So that's why it is a discipline. So it is not considered as an art. Uh, so so hard skills, no? So I mean, we have computations. We do well mathematically. Like even we would tell ourselves that this is the appropriate answer. No? So we compute things so that we will arrive at a solution that is appropriate or exact. No? Okay. So management, on the other hand, is a set of activities including planning and decision making, organizing, leading, and control directed at an organization's resources, human, financial, physical, and informational, with the aim of achieving organizational goals in an efficient and effective manner. So organizational goals. So when we are employed in the future, when we are in a company, so when we enter the company, they set certain goals, no? There are different goals, like short-term goals, medium-term goals, long-term goals. No, that means that the company would want to go from uh, achieving those short-term goals to support medium and then achieving those long-term goals. So to do this, to achieve those goals, there are several activities within the organization that we needed to manage. So that's why we plan, and based on our alternative or the solutions before us, we make decisions. And these decisions are not like hugot lang sa or suntok sa mga buwan na decision, no? Or hugot kung wherever we get that. So but in engineering, we have a system, so we system based on a system that we would arrive at a better decision. So we organize people, we lead people, we control the environment we're working with, such that we will achieve. So we will process or we will manage our resources. So resources, that means human, financial, physical, and informational. So we have people and then resources in this same sentence here in the definition of management, right? So in private industries, um, we always want to do work very efficiently. No? So meaning to say, we would want to minimize cost when we run projects, uh, lower production costs, something like that. No? So we want to be efficient. So if there are possible like certain tasks, if that can be done by 5 persons, um, as the optimum number, so there's no need for additional 5%, so that we have savings there. So in the private organization, the talk of the town is always to lower the cost, and improve the process and improve the product quality without any additional resources. So yeah. So engineering management is the direct supervision of engineers and or the engineering function. So when we become engineers, so we will be assigned with not only engineers under us, but also technicians and probably other engineers from other departments or key people from the human resource, or even in the supply chain office. So something like that. So we lead a group of people. So application of quantitative methods and engineering techniques to the practice of management. So we use, of course, we have sets of tools that we learn from our university, and the techniques we learn. So we apply those, what we learned in the university, and practice them to our workplace. Okay. So basically, what engineering managers do? So management of technical functions, management of functions, and high-tech enterprise. So these are the things that managers do. So there are a lot of things. So not only technical functions, but also we look into the human aspect, human aspect. So soft side and the technical side. Okay, more on engineering management, direct supervision of engineers or of engineering functions. So our job eventually, when we will be promoted to engineering manager, we need to manage a lot of engineers under us. No? So you're not dealing only with how the expertise of these people, but the character or behavior of the people as well, no? Or the engineers that we have. So engineering manager here is an engineer possessing both abilities to apply engineering principles and skills in organizing and directing people and projects. So when we go up in the ladder, of course, when we become engineering manager, so usually the salary now is ×3, ×4 from where we started, no? Because there are a lot of responsibilities as engineering manager. So there are still junior engineering managers, full-fledged engineering manager, or senior engineering manager, so different levels as well. But basically, we need to lead a set or a group of people. No? So for us to like help achieve the goals or objectives of the company. So sometimes we are assigned with projects, no? Project based. So we need to get people, and then we need to like manage those people and lead them, no, to the goals of the project. So my experience before, I was in the new product introduction when I started as a cadet engineer, then grew to senior assembly development engineer before transferring here in our place in our city, no? So from family decision. So my job entails leading a group of people that is not directly under me, who are not really reporting within our department, but I have to get support, get engineering support. A lot of engineers coming from different areas, like organizing people from quality engineering, process engineering, factory engineering, or the lot engineering. So also maintenance engineering. So these are different personalities that we have to manage, no, when we try to develop a new product or new production line. So the skills now is not only about the technical aspect, no. So you would say even that those guys who have long been working in the company may have um, a lot of technical skills, but as engineering manager now, as a senior engineer, the job is to manage these people to make their skills available for you, not to achieve your goals for the project. So my job before is to serve as a project leader, and those other engineers in the different areas work with us so that we will be able to launch new products. So especially in power devices, no, in Philips semiconductors, and before that or after that it became an NXP semiconductors, and so on. All right. So there are specific functions of engineering. Okay, so I think this is very general. Doesn't limit to electronics engineering. No? So one of the function is research, where the engineer is engaged in the process of learning about nature and codifying this knowledge into usable theories. So I would say that my job before include these two, no? Design and development. Research, design, and development. So in design and development, the engineer undertakes the activity of turning a product concept to a finished physical items. So design for manufacturability and value engineering teams are charged with improvement of designs and specifications at the research, development, design, and production stages of product development. So our team, our group before is called New Product Introduction. So basically, we started out assessing the product or characterizing the product, the new product that we are working with. So in my experience, we have a counterpart way back in Philips Semiconductors. Now we have a counterpart, engineers who are doctors, PhDs in their own field, who are based in Hazel Grove in the UK. So they develop this type of MOSFETs, top FETs, different kinds of field effect transistors. And what we do, because in the Philippines we are the manufacturing site, so they send us a wafer of silicon chips and ask us to like test the product and then use the process we have in the Philippines, package it and then test it and then evaluate the device. So that's how we do our things in the new product introduction group before. So there are new wafers sent to us, then we test them and then characterize. So more or less characterization of the devices, and then we submit them back to the UK, to our partners, to our engineers partners in the UK, to provide them the results, of the device. So until such time we move to the assembly development. That means that not only now the silicon, but we try to study new ways of producing products, not only on the silicon but also on the manufacturing part. Like the use of the different materials, like from the basic aluminum wires that you are using because of the power technologies. And now we're trying to use bronze or I mean gold, to be used. So these are different processes, and we use different kinds of aluminum solder not to produce a new product. So it's no longer about the silicon chip, but also introducing new manufacturing capabilities. So that's why it's mentioned here, design for manufacturability. We design that in a way we will have a good process now, so that during the design and development phase, we will have a robust product, the quality of the product, and at the same time, the manufacturability aspect, that it's not difficult to manufacture, because if it's difficult, then we might have to incur a lot of cost there. So something like that. So we design our products such that when we release the new product into the production will have easier time to process the product that we design and develop. So until such time we get to resolve all the problems, so we become successful in that particular project. So part of our job before is to find partners. So for example, suppliers. So there are opportunities for us to go to Japan or in Korea to find suppliers of the equipment that we use in the manufacturing. So testing, when the engineer works in a unit where new products or parts are tested for workability. So this is actually also part of our job, to test the product in terms of electrical and the hardware part. We characterize the electrical specifications of the devices. We also do the manufacturing capabilities. All right, so we test it out. So if there are problems, then we need to further improve the design of the equipment so that the process will be improved. All right. So manufacturing, this is where I worked before, where the engineer is directly in charge of production personnel or assumes responsibility for the product. So basically what I mentioned earlier, so something like that. So we have a lot of manufacturing sites here in the Philippines. And there is in Cebu, so manufacturing electronics boards. And then we have a lot of companies in Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, that goes into the manufacturing of electronic products. So construction, I think this refers more on civil engineering. So we know construction of buildings, houses, and so on and so forth, roads, bridges, things like that. So there are some of us who are into the sales, so engineering, especially if our company is into equipment manufacturing. Of course, we need to sell that equipment. So yeah, so there will be engineers who are more knowledgeable, no? So usually we send engineering team to sell products because they are more familiar with the device. Now it's difficult to sell a product when the salesperson doesn't have any knowledge, no, on product, even how that product works. So that's why engineers are also very important in sales. So where the engineer works as a consultant of any individual organization requiring services, of their services. So usually if we are already been working for several years, now decades of years in a particular specific field, then even when we retire, there will be people who will be asking us for our ideas to serve as a consultant. And sometimes even we are still active, people get your services as a consultant. So just like us now, no, our shift from the industry. So my wife, who is a doctor, no, decided to serve here in our place. No, so kind of a family decision, and then I resigned, no, from the work and transferred here. And that's why I don't. There's not much of an industry here present, so kind of a very limited option. So yeah, so what I did was to apply for a job here in the university, so I can also share what I've learned, no, in the industry, my 7 years experience in the industry, to the students and to fellow faculty members in the university. So yeah, government and teaching. So maybe other government includes the ICT. Now there are a lot of electronics engineers in the DICT, and we know those people right now. No? So we have, of course, the Honorable Secretary Gregorio Honasan as our DICT, our DICT Secretary. And I think we have from Butuan, I think you know that Honorable Undersecretary Alan Silar, you know, so he's working in the government as the DICT Undersecretary. So include me in the teaching. I am here teaching in the university. So we need to have people teaching in the university as well. So who are also engineers. Management, where the engineer is assigned to manage groups of people performing specific tasks. So this is true for any institution, that can be in the government, that can be in any manufacturing company, telco companies, Globe, Smart, PLDT, and maybe Dito Telecommunity will be hiring managers as well. So there are a lot of opportunities for sure, for electronics engineers, especially that our direction. So if you look at the direction of the country or the world, so more and more electronic devices are being introduced every year. So there are a lot of opportunities for electronics engineers. I'm happy that many of our graduates are also in Cavite, working in electronics companies, semicon companies. I'm sorry. So here are some of the functions of an engineer. The production of more food for a fast-growing population. So I think we are more familiar with agricultural engineering in this. Sorry. So of course, from the traditional way of farming, our agricultural engineers have developed tools to help our farmers to fast track the process, from planting to the post-production processes. The elimination of air and water pollution, solid waste disposal and materials recycling, reduction of noise in various forms, supplying the increasing demand for energy and mobility. So right now we have we've moved towards the adoption of solar photovoltaic farms. For mobility as well, right now, I think Tesla is a very good company in terms of developing um, new, I should say, battery-powered cars. So unlike hybrid cars of Toyota Prius, Tesla is really battery-based. So demand for mobility. So that's why we need to have trains, no, here in Mindanao, because it would fast track, no, the transfer of goods, transfer of people, no, from one place to the other. No, so we need no, so different people working on this. So prevent and solving crime. So there are a lot of engineers as well in the PNP working. So meet the increasing demand for communication facilities. And now this is very important. So in the world today, the world is getting smaller and smaller because we can talk to people from the other parts of the world, no, just by using Messenger, just using like this, Zoom. No? So we have improved over the years. Now, 20 years in, I think was a really great improvement, no, for the last 20 years in terms of communicating. In 1990s, I could remember when we were still, the email, well, the email was so slow. Of course, the internet is very slow. So we are happy that we have evolved now. And now we have 100 Mbps fiber connection at home. And so believe me, this will improve, not 10 years from down the road. Perhaps 10 years from now, we will have a 500 Mbps already. No, you know that the 5G technology is here already. So Globe, Smart, and D2 are trying to introduce 5Gs, also on specific location. So I've seen that using 5G in the US, in Verizon, I think the download speed can go as high as 1,000 Mbps. So that's a very great achievement in terms of establishing communication facilities, or how do we make available of communication. So the engineering in various types of organization, as a start, now you will consider yourself as level 1, minimal engineering jobs like data affairs. Level 2, those with moderate degree of engineering jobs like transportation companies. Level 3, those with a high degree of engineering jobs like construction firms. Right. So at the start, we are expected to be highly technical. Highly technical. We solve problems in the production line. There's a lot of problems that we need to use. We need to solve, and then improve as well the process, or something like that. And then as we go towards the management, no, magkadugay ta sa company, then our sets of skills, our specialization is mas jugamena in terms of kung musakan na ta sa rank, general management requirement, we improve ourselves. No? Okay, managers need 4 types of skills. So I mentioned it's not just about technical anymore. Our engineering skills, including we know we have engineering management or engineering economy. No, so we are exposed to accounting subjects, basic. No, so in terms of interest rates or something like that. No, so we've been taught about that, and they are very useful. No, so technical skills include operations research, how we can effectively reduce costs in the processes. So these are included in the technical aspect. Now, the challenge is when we become engineer, we need to have a very good interpersonal skills, because this is the skills that we need to encourage people to commit themselves to the goals that we set for the company. So, kung saan man nato sila, how can we lead them such that they will be motivated to work with you as a manager, and at the same time control them to focus, no, on the goals that we set. So every year at the start of the year, of course, we have our different sets of goals, no, for medium term, short term, medium term. So short term maybe 6 months or a year, no, that's short term. Then medium term, that would be 3 to 5 years, and long term 10 years. So how do we go about this? So the engineers under us in our team needs to understand that we have our own specific goals to meet. No? So as engineering manager, that's our goal, no? To lead people to the goals that we have established for the company. So conceptual ability to discern the critical factors that will determine as organization success or failure. So ability to see the forest in spite of the trees. So it goes beyond. No? So as an engineering manager, so you look into how we will be able to transform, to our group, our team, our company, our department, that we will be able to fast track our growth of the company, because there are only two ways that we can do. Either we let our company die, meaning to say lose a lot of people, resources, because we don't have sales probably, so we're not introducing a very good product. Or the other way is to improve the company such that we will uh, achieve, reach greater heights. Meaning to say, how we produce products or services. Let me see. Okay, so we may have question here. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. So we continue on. So we have technical, interpersonal, conceptual, and design skills. All right. So design skill, ability to solve in ways that will benefit the enterprise. So that's one. We'll be able to, well, of course, when we are being employed in the company, we are paid with that particular salary. So we always do return for the company, because that's where our butter, or our source of income to provide us for our families, to provide for ourselves. So we always help the company solve its problems, such that all these will be resolved, so that the company can continue on its operation. So imagine a company that we will not be able to contribute and help address problems in the company, then we may not be able to achieve the goals that we have for the company. And then if that will happen, it might be potentially that becomes a failure. So maybe one aspect of design, so design skill. I remember, I don't know if you can also relate with this, but Nokia was the best cellular phone maker in the 2000s. In 1999, I think 97, they started introducing products, Nokia phones. So there's a big hit. Globally, they're a big hit. Number one company in the world. Nokia, I think, is based in Sweden. No, I mean in Finland. So they've developed this, and then they keep on introducing several different devices. So they design a lot of phones. Then it's just that some of the companies, I think it's safe to mention here, Apple, they were really been able to design a product that's very cool, very cool for the people. So what happened is that um, what happened is that when Apple introduced a product in 2007, what happened was that because of the smartphone introduction in 2007, this was not perceived by Nokia, so they were able to design a product, right? So what happens next? We saw that Nokia lost ground, lost its competition, and so what happened next is that Apple becomes the global leader in the smartphone business. Of course, we know we have Nokia and Samsung now, and Huawei and other smaller players. Yeah, so they were not able to upgrade themselves, to the basic principles of the introducing innovative products. All right, so for that particular case, Nokia was not able to catch up with Apple. So that's kind of a sad story as well. No? So in this particular subject, yeah, so we need to understand interpersonal skills. No? So yes, so we will be focusing on the skills needed to improve ourselves. No? So there are different skills that we need to develop, no, when we say related to interpersonal skills, no? So leadership skills, no? So there are a lot of things that we can discuss in terms of leadership skills, leading. So that is one chapter. There is a one chapter devoted to that, how to lead people, no? So that everybody is um, focused on the goals that we define. So there's one skill there. All right. So we will have one chapter in that. Okay, so these are the 4 interpersonal skills. So basically, ato lang ni isa-isa discuss, no? We can discuss this one at a time. So unsa ni technical skills. So knowledge of and proficiency in activities, including methods, process, and procedures, involves working with tools and specific techniques. For example, mechanics work with tools, and their supervisor should have the ability to teach them how to use these tools. All right. So when we are new in the company, the first thing that the managers would tell us is that, all right, you need to read all the work processes here. If you're dealing with equipment, you need to read the equipment manuals, now for us to like understand how this equipment works. So those are the basic things to start with. And then they allow us to look into how products are being processed to understand that. So that's the technical skills that we would have to develop when we start in a company. So how the products are used, no? So what are the kind of materials being used? Why are these materials used and not something other else? So those kind of skills. So those kind of skills we need to have, no, and understand. That's why it's very important to ask questions. Why are we using this machine? Why are you using these materials? Why are you using? So there in the engineering skills, we kind of, that's why we're using aluminum, because, well, gold is expensive and the work can be done by aluminum, and so be it. No? So we would explore that possibilities. No? So those are related to the technical skills. Yeah, so overall, over time, we may develop our certain techniques, know how to understand things better or work in terms of developing the product much better. In terms of certain skills, we become proficient in that, and then somehow introduce new processes. No, so we conduct research, right? Um, okay, human skill, ability to work with people, cooperative effort, teamwork. So how we deal with people. So I think for many of us, no, this is the difficult part. So this is the most difficult part for us. I think because people have different personalities. Um, so that's why out of the picture is that, like, to convince, no, these people that we need to work on this, because there is a specific, like, our customers would love to have this product by tomorrow. So we need all the effort, no, cooperative effort of all the people, such that we may be able to deliver those commitments for us to our customers. So teamwork. So we need, as leader, no, we need to be able to create an atmosphere wherein people are comfortable with their workplace, with how we interact with one another. So yeah, so different industries have different way of working. So especially those companies na dagko kayo, no? So sometimes there are companies that are very exhaustive, very difficult to stay, no? That's why people go out, because they cannot um, live with the pressure. There are cursing around, no? So there are companies like that. And I read this book. um, I read this book from a Silicon Valley founder. So I read this in the initial chapter. He said that in their company, they don't. The number one rule is they don't curse. No? So they don't curse. We know American companies, Americans like to curse. No, but then in their company, it is imperative that all the workers will not curse on each other. No? So that's one good thing, because cursing daw, according to him, of course, it's negative, no? Negative na, no? Negative. negative aspect, and they will be able to really develop that company into a big company that without any cursing, because a lot of guys in the US would curse one another, no, especially they're really mad. So they created an environment where they feel very secure and they're free to express their opinion. So I think you're familiar with Apple, even with the companies of Tesla. So there are a lot of fighting, sometimes arguments. So that becomes, sometimes it's good, but sometimes it affects people's personality, insecurity can become insecure, and so people leave the companies and that. Yes, so sometimes curses like um can be form part of a bullying, no? So they, yeah, so that's not good, no? So um like if you something like that, no, so that's cursing. So when there's a heated argument, F you, sometimes they say those things, no? So and it's not good to hear, no, especially if you are in a company. And then the next thing that would happen there is that every day they will just say it out loud, no, and it's not really good. Okay, so yeah, so sorry, I'm my kid here. Next is we have conceptual skills. Conceptual skills, ability to see the big picture, to recognize significant elements in a situation, so understand the relationships among the elements. So I think I've discussed this already. No? So sometimes people tend to be decisive right there and then, and somehow we don't, like, we just act, no, based on that information. Now, for example, in the house, no, so we need to deep dive what could be the potential reason why this boy is mad. No? So we don't look into the picture, but listen only to what the boy is saying, but we're not looking into the entire picture. No? So why are we doing, why is this event happening? No? So are we promoting an environment in the house where kids are loving one another? No, so something like that. So ability for us to see the bigger picture rather than focusing on people fighting or kids fighting with one another, and what we see there is just simply the fighting, but we want to see that why there is this certain fighting. So we question ourselves, are we doing something in the environment that somehow prevents this from happening, or something like that. In the industry, when we mean by big picture, for example, in the Philippines, we are one of the countries that been touted as the manufacturing capitals, no? But um, looking at the big picture, like Asia or even the world, no? So there are other companies or other countries that actually exist to compete with us. No? So the bigger picture for companies, US-based companies, why would I invest in the Philippines when I think Vietnam is much more um, have a better environment to produce our products? So they're looking at that. So they're looking at how Philippines can be much more competitive with Vietnam, or Vietnam over to the Philippines. So no longer about just China. China is very cheap, to produce products, but they're looking for other second sites or third sites to manufacture their goods. So usually, looking at China alone is not enough anymore because there might be crisis in the future. So usually, companies would expand to other countries, duplicate their operation. So maybe Apple is now building manufacturing plants in India, to support their product development. But we know, of course, China is still the number one country to go to country for the manufacturing of electronic products. All right, so I've discussed this earlier. No? So okay. Managers must also have that valuable skill of being able to design a workable solution to the problem in light of the realities they face. So we are trained for a long time, as engineers, as engineering students, we're trained for a long time to solve problems. And so if you notice from the very beginning, first year, you've been doing mathematics, algebra, trigonometry, calculus. Basically, what the university is teaching us is to how to solve problems. So it's problem solving. And when we go to the workplace, it's no longer about the figures itself, but how we tackle the problem. Now, the skills that we are taught with in the university are the type of skills that how we approach when a problem would exist before us. So that's why it's very important that we develop these skills, in the university, so that when we arrive in the industry, para siyang ano na lang parang it's there already in our brains, where our brains are programmed how we process problem solving. The skills in terms of problem solving is there already, and then we are faced with this, so we just, okay, what are we gonna do? So in your mind, it's there already. So we put things together so that we can enable ourselves, and help the team solve the problem. So problem solving, so mga nang engineer yun, magsige yun na, so we always think of solutions, because that's our job, as an engineer. So solve problems or improve, improve the particular product if we're not solving problems, right? Those are the two major things that I think I need to emphasize now. So problem solving skills that we have to help us, our company. Design or requirements for the engineering manager's job. So of course, engineering from a reputable school. So the question is why there is a reputable school. So to be honest, usually like the big universities in Manila, they have engineering management courses. So they have an edge on that. They are taught with how to manage. But basically for us, we started as learning technical. So we are actually in advantage because we know the technical aspect. And then when we go for a job, we know already, like we get promoted to engineering manager. So at least we know already how the technical aspect works. And what we're gonna do is help improve our relationship skills, our interpersonal skills. So kanang interpersonal skills, actually, some of you guys are doing this already while go back in college. So like for you, you lead your classmates in terms of your organizations in the ECE. So you also involve yourself in activities. Maybe even if it's just simple, you're just part of the team that works on it, but being involved there is already practicing your interpersonal skills because you deal with fellow students who work at the same time on that particular project. So these are type of skills that we need to do. So we're not even yet in the skills of presentation skills, and that's also different. So it's the working aspect that we are trying to develop now, the interpersonal skills. So we see that maybe people with plenty of friends, they're good at it in terms of the interpersonal skills. So it's just a matter of practicing it, trying your best. Okay, I want to make friends, 10 friends for now. So, well, that's the talking part will come in. So the talking part will come in. So the interpersonal skills. So how you approach a person. So of course you study this. So I think there's a book, Dale Carnegie book, man, How to Win Friends. Yeah, so something like that. How do we talk people? How do we talk to people so that we gain friends? And how do we maintain relationships as well? Okay, so it not necessarily, so from a reputable school, I do believe that others with very good, intelligent persons and highly skilled persons become managers themselves, because of how they evolve in the company. A few years experience in pure engineering job, that would be helpful as well. Training and supervision. Of course, when you are an engineer and the managers before us see potential in you, so you will be trained in supervisory role. So when I became senior engineer, no, so one thing that I cannot forget, no, my manager asked me, there's that such thing now as a mentoring. There was this senior manager in the company that was assigned to me to mentor me. Mentoring sessions. We have mentoring sessions. So I think they're kind of preparing us already on that path. And they were mentoring us that, well, you talk to that particular mentor, and then in terms of the jobs, in terms of exposing you, no, exposing you to the business in itself. Because when we are engineers, we are limited. Our mindset is limited to the task at hand. No? So ingana, but then when we have mentors, they will expose you to the business aspect, no, of the company, so something like that. Yeah. So um, okay. Special training in engineering management or something like this. Okay, we have one question here. Um, Confused with the introduction. Really, Jude. I think the engineer is a start. No, so we are focused on the specific task we are assigned to when we start. So that's what we do. No, and then when we become affiliated with the company, so more responsibilities at the same time when we are promoted, our expansion, no? So our work becomes bigger and bigger. And that is where the time when comes when we actually um, work with other people already, no? Because we have this task that requires us to work with other people. So that's the thing. So we will not be, no, we will not be parang settled in one particular place. And when we grow in the company, our interaction becomes bigger. No? So we work with other people. So the start, maybe some 1 to 2 years, we're focused on what we are doing. But then when the management says, I think you're ripe for a bigger role in the company, so you will be assigned to a bigger role to lead a project, something like that. No? So you will interact with other people now. So when the job requires us to do that, so you will interact with more and more people. Yan na siya. Okay. So how we become a successful engineering manager indicates at least three general preconditions for achieving lasting success as a manager. One, our ability. Two is motivation to manage, and second or third is opportunity. All right. So it starts in ourselves. No? So ability. Well, of course, we need to be very good at the things that we do. The knowledge that we have. So when we are faced with problems, we have the ability to solve that problems, and there is a design needed. There is ability for us to work with that design. Motivation to manage, like it's really start from ourselves now, if we're willing to manage people or not. Because when we become engineering manager, it's no longer about a question you will accept yourself in terms of managing people. So our job becomes mandatory to manage people, no, when we become engineering manager. So highly successful engineering manager, day in and day out, they are always self-motivated. They're always self-motivated. They know the goals that they need to attend to, they need to accomplish. They are always motivated. So self-motivated managers. So they're not motivated alone by the salary that they get. They're not motivated to the benefits that they get. But I think it's about accomplishing the tasks, the goals that are set for the company. So these are the guys that really been successful. Okay, they do whatever it takes to achieve the goals. So they do whatever it takes. So whatever it takes to, no. So this is from the self, no self, self motivation, good, because you will be leading other people, and you need to motivate those people themselves. No? So and when those people that you manage and see themselves, even my boss is not even motivated to work to achieve our goal. How much more we, the engineers, no, not managers. So if we see our boss not motivated to work on his task, how can we motivate ourselves? And third is opportunity. No? So of course, there will be opportunities, not only in the companies that we will be working, but outside. No? So that's why there are several opportunities that being offered within the company. And of course, the usual process that if it's the management is ready to see you to become manager, they will open that opportunity to you. No, so first and foremost, before even considering other people. So sometimes when the management decides na we want to have a very competitive hiring of a manager, so that's why they open to the public the hiring of a new manager. So they're gonna entertain other people, other people from outside na to suited for the job. So kung kinsa ra to motivated to achieve no or to get that role, then they would somehow present themselves an opportunity. Okay. All right. So I think I've discussed this. No? So okay. All right. This is where I would end our first session. Unless if you have questions in the chat box, now so we'll tackle them. So prepare a list of 10 engineers who became president or general manager of a large company. Give a background of the person. So it can be the owner themselves of the company. It can be those presently acting as general manager of a large company. Like they are chief executive officer of a company with having a background. It can either be in the US, anywhere in the world, or in the Philippines. That would be good if you can highlight some of those people who are working as managers or engine president now in the so give the background, meaning to say where they graduated, what are their courses. No? So it's not limited to electronics engineers. No? So where did they graduated or graduate? Where did they graduate? No, in the Philippines. What is their engineering school? So what have they done? No? So perhaps you can elaborate more on um, which particular field are they right now, and how do they become uh, an engineering manager? So something like that in that particular mini essay. So you can submit it by a Word file, A4, or write your answers in a piece of paper and then take a photo of it and send it via email. So this will be the first part of our work. So and then we'll get to review those items. All right, in the next perhaps next meeting. So um, I would like to highlight one particular individual. Now, I think it's included. It might be included in your list or not. But right now, um, I could share with you a very successful person who was actually a graduate from Mabua University, and then he is an electrical engineer, no? And he became an employee of Philippine Airlines. And when he had the opportunity to go to the US and work with Boeing company, Boeing's a car or airplane manufacturer, based in the US. And what happened there was that he was able to um, had a chance to study in Stanford University. So while he was in Stanford University, he enrolled in the Master of Science in Electrical Engineering. He studied there and he was able to develop a product. No, so part of his research was on boards, no, it's boards, part of the integral part of the motherboard, and he was able to form a company from there. And so from R&D to establishing his own company, being the president or chairperson of the company, then he was able to sell this company to Intel, and he was able to get I think 200 million US dollars with that when he sold this company. And even with that invention he had from that particular company, he has still right now the computers are running or using that invention still. So he's a Filipino, of course, and he's very poor before, but he was able to, because of his willingness, motivation to study very hard, he was able to develop that particular device or product and grow that company, and then sold that company to Intel for 200 million US dollars. Do you know that particular person? He has also been here in the Philippines. Do you know? You can write your answers in the chat. All right. So do you know this guy I'm referring to as the engineer entrepreneur? Do you have idea who he is? You can write your answers in the chat box. Okay. Do you have an idea who this person is? Okay. So so I'll just want you to research on that as well. No, so okay, wait. Okay, so you can find that out. So I'm actually before we close now. So actually he's a very popular person now. So and he was the guy who pushed for the Technopreneurship 101 subject in the university. Technopreneurship 101. He is actually Diosdado Banatao. So Diosdado Banatao. He's old already. He's old, but he's still working right now because he has money. So he's um, helping support startup companies, technology-based companies. He's supporting startup companies in the US. So I'm not sure if he has invested in startup companies here in the Philippines. That's I think one of the things that can be done in the future. All right, so our time is almost up, and if you have questions about the things that we discussed now based on this topic right now, we can have them here on the floor, and if not, you might want to work with the assignment, no? And I hope that you guys have learned something for today. So hopefully we'll have good opportunity to discuss even further. So this is, I mentioned about developing soft skills now. So we need to understand this. We'll go beyond what is being taught in the university. I want to share with you guys. At least you have an idea already when you go to the company, when you begin working, and hopefully, yeah. So hopefully that can be, that can be a good background for you. I'm hoping to get somebody talk about the role of engineering manager, like arrange a person for this class. So a friend of mine to discuss about her role as a manager. I think that would be very helpful as for you as well. And then you can ask questions about the job that he or she do every day in the company. I think that would be very good as well. All right. So do you have questions? You can put your, so yeah, these are all recorded. I have to post this online so that you can review it back. So all of our classes will be, posted online, accessible to you only, of course. All right. So I don't think we have questions here. Wala, no? So You have questions? No questions? I hope that's clear, no? And I'll look for the assignments that you have submitted, that you will be submitting. All right. So with that, I'll see you again, no? All right. Thank you very much for your time this morning. I'll see you. That would be next schedule, no, for our class.